Hello and welcome, I'm Liam the Music Reviewer. I'm a changed man. And today we're going to be talking about the new John Misty album, God's Favourite Customer. If you've somehow went with this channel's history and still don't know who the hell John Misty is, I mean, congratulations for being able to miss out for so long. I think I've done like 2 or 3 videos on him at this point. John Misty, real name Josh Tillman, was the drummer for the iconic rock outfit Fleet Foxes. Started doing things under the moniker John Misty. Pretty much been receiving critical acclaim since day one. His debut Fear Fun is probably his least respected, but still people in his fan base like it a great deal. Still need to get around to it. I'm such a sham. But I Love You Honey Bear, the sophomore LP, everyone loves. It's impossible not to. It's such a well-meaning, funny, romantic, just well put together album. It's no surprise that people still regard it as their favourite, even though Pure Comedy came out last year, which was a critical darling. There's no point denying it. I own it on vinyl here. I don't think it's his best album. Many people regard it as his magnum opus. I will not criticise people for thinking that, because in many ways it has the makings of one. It's his most ambitious record. It's a big boy. But it definitely justifies most of its running time. I do think that it's a bit self-satisfying, a bit self-indulgent. Sometimes it wears a little bit of thin, and I can definitely see people not liking the palette of sounds it's going for. It's definitely gets a bit samey at points. I don't think it's so samey that it becomes repetitive, but I can definitely see some critiques in this album that I do believe in. But it was still one of my favourite albums of last year, and yeah, that's basically all led up to God's Favourite Customer. Very much the product of Josh Tillman just locking himself up in a hotel for a few months. Just his inner demons getting the better of him, it seems, just from the few bits of press that have been going about around this album. John Misty doesn't seem to be doing much to promote this album. Kind of seems to be doing the job for itself, and yeah, it very much seems like a kind of case, and I won't be the first person to say this, where a musician receives a huge deal of critical acclaim and then starts to kind of step back a little bit and reflect upon it. Nick Cave's done it, Mark Kozlik's done it. There's a huge amount of artists that have done it, and I guess John Misty is now going to join them, and I was fairly excited for this album. There's absolutely no denying that. And before we jump even more into this album, it needs to be kind of like given a prelude of there's many theories going about the internet about this album, people speculating a great deal, and I don't really feel comfortable doing that, mainly because these theories end up being wrong most of the time, and really we won't know the realness of anything on here until it actually gets confirmed by Josh or his wife Emma at some point. That being said though, if you do want to know any of these kind of like, I guess, theories about it, Mark from Spectrum Pulse put a great video kind of like detailing what he thinks about it, but I think there's plenty on this album that's concrete, that's on here, that there's no bullshit about, that is worth discussing. The first single, Mr. Tillman, was the indicator of just kind of like what we could expect from God's Favourite Customer. I did a review on it, and my thoughts on it haven't changed all that much. I still think it's a great song, definitely one of the best singles to come out from this year so far. The music video that accompanies it is just bloody brilliant, and same to go with most of the music videos that have came out from God's Favourite Customer. This is the first John Misty album where he self-produced it, and there's not a huge like dip in quality at all. If anything, there's just some really lovely moments on here. In addition to that, there's just that classic John Misty wit. There's humour about his whole entourage. At one point, the narrator from this, who is like somebody working like the reception of a hotel, saying about like, oh, what a lovely tattoo that young man had on his face there, and then just basically detailing a huge list of dumb stuff that John Misty's done, probably while he was drunk. It's one of the more lighter moments on here, but there's definitely, once you take it into the grander scheme of this album, it's kind of gallows kind of humour, I guess you could say. Just one of those things where it's one of the few like uplifting moments, especially because the production on here isn't quite as downtrodden as it is on a lot of this album, where it's quite dark. And yeah, this song just had me hyped for God's Favourite Customer, as did Disappointing Diamonds and Dumb Enough to Try. This was definitely one of my most anticipated records of the year, and I have to say, like, after listening to the first track on here, when I listened to this album for the first time, Hang Out at the Gallows, I was like overjoyed, but not in the in the typical sense of being overjoyed with happiness. It was more overjoyed in this kind of somber way. It was just, I knew that I was in for a really special album here, and I have to say, this is just a great album. I'm so happy with what John Misty has produced here, even though the subject matter and how it's discussed isn't exactly joyful. On this song, it goes from bare guitars and drums to salony keys, muscly horns. It's just, the production on this album I think is pretty good. I think I prefer it a lot more to Pure Comedy, which, as I pointed out at the start of this video, did get a little bit stale at points for me, for very rare moments, but I think here I'm constantly just interested by it. And the same I should have said about Mr. Tillman was just how lush the arrangement was on here. There's not a single faltering point in terms of performances here. It's all just great form. But John Misty has always been somebody, like most singer-songwriters, where their words carry the most strength here, and Hang Out at the Gallows is just a dark, dreary song. This is definitely one of the most brutally honest bits of music he's ever put out, and personally one of my favourite tracks on this album. The way he manages to describe his mental health, which is probably the prime focus of this entire album, describing them as being like psychic terrorists. It's just such a, I've not heard anyone put it in that way. I know we always say like our mind is like we are our own worst enemy, but the way he puts it as being like psychic terrorists is just great. The chorus on here with that whole what's your politics, what's your religion, what is your intake, and how it just kind of like how that can sum up a person. I think for a lot of people nowadays, especially in America, where politics are as heated as ever, we basically worry and overanalyze everything, and that can take a toll on you as well. Obviously that isn't really a main focus on this album, but considering John Misty's past, especially Pure Comedy, it wouldn't be a total lie or total stretch even to speculate that there's some sort of connection there. Let's lighten the mood though and talk about the song in this album that takes shots at sleazy characters in entertainment and life in general that share more than a little bit of common ground with John Misty's character. I guess that's not lightening the mood at all, especially with the current state of just society in general. Date Night is that song though, and again, like Mr. Tillman, at least in terms of production, it's a bit more upbeat. Again, it's not as gloomy. It incorporates a DX1 into the mix. It just gives everything a bit more of like a spritey tempo, I guess you could say. And again, the lyrics here are definitely kind of like taking shots and having a bit of fun at poking fun at them. But I guess the true extent to what these people are like with a whole god complex is shown off here. This is definitely not like a fun album by any means. Again, a lot of hooks, a lot of songs that are easy enough to listen without the context of the album, but within the context of the album they all work off each other extremely well, and it's such a concise, tight album that I find it hard not to just recommend this record to anyone, even if you were put off by Pure Comedy's scope. That being said though, God's Favourite Customer isn't an album that I would recommend to everyone though, especially if you're not a fan of just kind of going through just some really somber songs. The peak of this somberness just being Please Don't Die, which again is a personal favourite of mine, but not in the sense that it's enjoyable at all. It's just another gut punch, if I'm being completely honest. Like I say, mental health is a prime focus on this album, and it's here where it's not holding back at all, where basically it's kind of explored through a conversation between John Misty and his wife Emma. The accompanying music video, by the way, is just as great and manages to display these themes in a totally different way from how they're described in the lyrics, but still with the same kind of like overall tone, so watch that if you haven't. But just with the overall chorus, and apologies for that noise there, don't know what the hell that was, but yeah, with the chorus of "You're all that I have, so please don't die wherever you are tonight," it's just so depressing, especially with the verses where Josh is just basically saying about how maybe tonight he's going to end it, he's been going out with strangers and that, just getting really drunk, getting really into his head. It's just, it's not nice to really hear that, but it's something worth hearing, and I'm a real sucker for personal albums where people are really shown a side which often isn't explored because of just how we want to see entertainers as like an escape from our everyday life. So when you actually see them going through it, imagining toward it in a way that they do, especially with our John Misty being just one of the most talented singer-songwriters about at the moment, he manages to convey it in a really meaningful and, in my eyes, a really poignant and beautiful way. And pretty much every song on here just continues this cheeriness, even if the production and the performances are a bit more upbeat, a bit more joyful sounding. There is always something to be taken away from it that is just a bit more dark. This is very much an album that seems to continue the kind of themes and the just overall feel of I Love You Honey Bear, but in like a just darker tone. It doesn't feel unnatural at all though, it does feel totally organic. It's not like a gritty reboot or something like that, but a lot of the things that we get Josh talking about on I Love You Honey Bear, especially with the romance, we see that explored here. Like I say with Please Don't Die, it is just explored in a much more darker way that's just more telling and just more compelling. The Palace is a song here where we just get to see another relationship, but this time it's Josh's relationship with the hotel where he stayed, and yeah, he just relies on this isolation so much. It's just really kind of upsetting. There's bits where it's kind of funny, like where he says how he's in the poem zone, but at the same time it's kind of sad because he's obviously putting himself through a lot here, and it's obviously taking its toll on him. There really isn't a weak song at any point on here. We get the penultimate track, The Songwriter, where basically, yeah, Josh kind of owns up to the fact that, yeah, if it was his wife Emma talking about him, he would probably feel really uncomfortable about it. He admits that the way he talks about her in songs is really not leaving much privacy at all. It probably took a toll on his wife, and he just kind of like questions on what if we heard the other side of the story, if he was the muse and his wife was a songwriter. One of the best songs he's ever put out. I love this song so much. I kind of wish it was a song that closed everything out because of its sheer quality. Not to say that the final track, We're Only People, is bad by any means. I still think it's a good song. I do think it would probably work better if it was a bit more refined to be in the penultimate song, since the outro does fit the closing of an album. Just think that it would come to the songwriter being the closing track, it would just be that punch. Like, it starts off with one and it just ends with one, and really this is just a brutally honest, just utterly captivating gem. It could very well be my favourite Father John Misty album, given a bit more time as the year goes on. I just had a strange but good time with this album, and I'm feeling a light 9 on this. Light 9. I've got a lot of favourite songs. It's not really one that I could really name as my least favourite, so don't be surprised if you look down there trying to look for one. If you've listened to God's Favourite Customer, please let me know what you think of it. If it's your new favourite, if you think it's the weakest effort that he's put out at this point in his career, and yeah, just let me know in the comments down below, favourite songs, worst songs. I'll speak to you guys very soon, and as always, stay safe and stay hydrated.